What's up, everybody? I am uploading this video at about an hour before we go live for our podcast. So if you are catching this August 23rd in the morning, we do our podcast, The Last Word, myself and Lord Cognito. Sometimes we've got guests, and we always go live on twitch.tv/Ebontis at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you're catching this when I upload it in the morning, feel free to jump over to Twitch in about an hour or so. If you don't, we've always got it on audio platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and pretty much all podcast platforms, and the archive will be up here later. So if you don't catch it live, catch it on one of those platforms. But if you are up and awake this morning, come check us out and chat with us this morning. All right, now let's get to the video. Hello, Guardians. It is Ebontis here, and we are going to talk about the map of the moon, a couple new activities that we've seen, a couple tidbits have come out from an article or two, and try and decipher what we can figure out from this map. And also ask you guys a couple questions of what you think about some of the content and how it's going to last on a seasonal basis. So we look at the moon, we do see a lot more detail than we had in Destiny 1. I'm going to bring up the Destiny 1 map now so you can see it. We have a couple of similar locations. We've got Archer's Line, which remains the same. We've got Anchor of Light, and also Hellmouth. Now, obviously, the locations are more detailed in Destiny 2, but those three remain the same. Now, if we change the orientation of Archer's Line and Anchor of Light to kind of more fit the way it is in Destiny 1, you would see off to the right of the Anchor of Light in Destiny 2, we've got the Temple of Crato on Destiny 1's map. But there's nothing there, but we do see kind of a path that kind of tapers off into nothing, that may be down into caves, the underbelly of the moon. There is a lot underneath the moon, so that is something we definitely need to remember as well. So we have Temple of Crato not listed on the map, but when we come back to Destiny 2, we've got a couple new locations. So we've got in the very, very bottom, a place called Sanctuary. Now, never seen that one before. If you're looking at Destiny 1, that area and pathway did not even exist before. And that is one of the landing zones. I don't know if it's going to be the main one, but it seems like as it's on the bottom of the map, and that is some of the familiar locations, I would imagine this is where we're going to start for a landing zone. Sorrow's Harbor may be opened up a little later, possibly. Not sure how those landing zones are going to go. So we're going to start from the bottom, and we're going to work our way up and kind of break down everything that we've got so far with regards to knowledge about the moon. And then I'm going to speculate about a couple of things, and you guys can have those comments below. And please reply in the comments below if you have thoughts, speculations, ideas of what any of this stuff could be. Because until we know for sure, it's going to kind of be fun to speculate. So if we start in Sanctuary and head just up to the right a little bit, we're going to have the Anchor of Light. Now that one's set up in a more detailed fashion than it was in Destiny 1 on the map, but you can definitely remember if you played Destiny 1 where all those structures are going to be. So if you're looking at just the word Anchor, that whole structure over there was like two kind of building areas. There was ramps between them. There were some captains and stuff in there. It was a whole area where we would fight multiple enemies. Quite frequently, it'd be kind of one of the good rotations to fight. And then below the word light, we will see the kind of circular orb is kind of the raised dome structure in the middle. And then off to the northeast of the word light, you've got the new Lost Sector, which is brand new. Used to be a location just enemies would kind of patrol around the outside, the outskirts and edges of the buildings. Now that's going to be a lost sector for us to go inside of. So that is one of the first major changes we've got is a lost sector on the Anchor of Light, and that is for sure a new thing. Now, also on the Anchor of Light, if you go down to the southeast of the actual kind of circular dome and the wording, we've got the basically busted fallen cache that has either crashed or parked, and I'm not entirely sure which it is, but the fallen cache is brand new for the moon. So this is a new area. The caches are fairly large fallen ships, and that is kind of where they're going to be in. We used to do public events out in that region. If I can remember, that would be where it's at. There used to be like a war sat or something there. Now I've got an entire ship to explore. You've got a regional chest, but there's definitely going to be stuff going on in that ship for sure, if not some enemies to fight tied to that. So that is a lot of what we've got there. I'm going to get to the icons and the strikes and stuff here in just a little bit. I just want to walk through the map and see what we can cover. Next, we're going to come back up. We're going to go to the left to Archer's Line. Now, Archer's Line was the previous landing zone. Now, the landing zone used to be about where that public event is being shown right now. Is just a little farther down the hill. You'd come up, and what you can see, that giant kind of rectangular structure with a long kind of line going through it. It seemed like a rail line or like a train track, some situation where it would be like a big long set of tracks. There was kind of a bust in the middle of them, and they would continue off the map, and you really could never follow where they go. They travel all the way down to Sanctuary. They still look pretty broken, so we don't know how far down those are going to go, if it's going to be a way to kind of traverse around or anything like that, but those are definitely going to be there, and we've got a couple screenshots to show this one as well. So I will put a couple screenshots on screen as we're going through, just to show you guys what we're talking about and what we're looking at. So in Archer's line, we do have a lost sector, which makes sense. Again, the top left corner, if you go straight above like the ARC, like arch, go straight above that big rectangular building. That used to be a building you'd go down into. There were some enemies that would spawn inside, so the fact that that will be a lost sector is very fitting. It was already a building before, so having a little more depth to it makes sense, because they can honestly just add more geometry underneath the building that was basically already there. Then we've got, obviously, of course, a couple of regional chests, and I'm not touching on the unknown things. I'll get to the speculation here in a little bit. Now, whichever way you used to get to it, whether from Archer's line, you can tell from the rectangular building kind of to the northeast, you would go to Hellmouth, or on Anchor of Light, just right, past the lost sector due north, you would get to the Hellmouth. Now, this is the big circular area that looked like a giant crater with a hole in the middle, which is where we, in the previous version of Destiny, in Destiny 1, we fought Crato. The raid was in there. There was still part of the caverns down in. There was a mission that went through the middle and stuff like that we went through later, but it was a big crater with a hole in the middle. Well, now it has changed. So the Hellmouth now is what looks like it's going to be holding or connected to, depending on how this map all sets up. But the Hellmouth definitely seems to be the place we've got to go and investigate the actual castle. The red keep that we keep seeing in all the pictures and everything like that, that is basically the art for Shadowkeep. That is going to be, my understanding of the way the map looks, is going to be right smack dab in the middle of Hellmouth, and then we're going to be headed back in there. So that is definitely going to be a big place to explore, and will have previously changed. Usually all we did is just that outer edge of the Hellmouth, just kind of the edges of the crater, kind of the angled areas, the ones with slope to them where you'd be headed down into the middle. You'd just be kind of go along the outside rim, and you could go in a couple cavern entrances. Well, there's going to be a giant fortress there now, so it's going to be slightly different. So while there are a couple regional chests, that definitely is going to be a new thing for sure to explore, and is going to be probably barely recognizable except maybe some of the outer edges. In Hellmouth, we've got another lost sector. Of course, lost sectors are new, but that one is going to be kind of tucked back in on its own, so I'm not entirely sure in my mind where that one's going to connect to. I have a couple ideas, but I think a lot of the Hellmouth is going to be pretty revamped, so it's going to be a pretty brand new area. Then it looks like from the Hellmouth, if you go due east from that little road connection, we'll travel up and we'll see the Sorrow's Harbor. Sorrow's Harbor is going to be a brand new section. Now, we do have a lost sector just smack dab in the middle. No idea what this place is going to hold. This is the other landing zone, though, so we're definitely going to be passing through here quite a bit. This potentially is going to be a closer way to get to the Hellmouth and get into the fortress if you're going that direction. And then we've also got, 3 regional chests. And if you look to the top right corner of Sorrow's Harbor, it looks to be kind of similar if you're looking to the Dreaming City map as we head back into the top corner of Resylvia, or we almost go off the map. Something similar here to where there is a connection to the map that looks like a pathway where you're going to head up into something up that direction as well. Again, we don't know what all this stuff connects to, but that is a brief run through of the map. So they've definitely added more. We have Hellmouth, which has been revamped. We've got more lost sectors to delve through. We've got a full fallen ship. We've got Sorrow's Harbor. We don't know what Sanctuary is down in the bottom, if that is just a specific direction, landing zone, or what. But that little tiny strip of land being called Sanctuary doesn't quite seem like it's going to be just that. Probably more, maybe not, but hard to tell. So that basically covers the run through of the map of what we can at least look at. Now let's take a look at some of the activities that we know we have. First is going to be the strike. The new strike is going to be called the Scarlet Keep. Now, the Scarlet Keep sounds like it may be one of the story missions that we go through in the Shadowkeep campaign. The reason I say that because the description reads, investigate the recently erected Scarlet Keep and discover its dark purpose. Sounds fairly vague in its description, sounds what would be fitting for potentially a story mission. So that's going to be probably involved in the campaign, slight tweaks just like before on some of the others. This is one of the 2 new strikes. One of the other ones is on IO. We got confirmation of that from the new article. I will list that below. They got an interview with Ben Womack and Deej, and he did say there are 2 new strikes for Shadowkeep. Most of us have not seen the 3rd PlayStation exclusive. I mean, a fair amount of you have, but Xbox, PC, we get 1 more strike accessible in Shadowkeep because we just haven't seen it before. It's been a PlayStation exclusive. So most of us will be getting 2 new strikes, but us Xbox and PC players will be getting 3 new strikes that we'll have access to. But this is the only one on the moon. Pretty straightforward listed right there. Recommended power 750, so it is a basic level strike. Nothing too crazy there, I think. The next thing we get to are the big glaring red icons on the map that you guys have probably been like, talk about them. I'm here. So these are the Nightmare Hunts. Now, there are 3 different ones it looks to be on the map, and these are very distinct. This is where I'm going to tie kind of into the later part of the discussion as well. So the first one that we know of, we haven't seen the names of the other 2. This is called Servitude, and it says defeat the Nightmare of Zydron Gatelord. Now, Zydron the Gatelord was a large boss on one of the missions in Destiny 1 that we fought previously. He's a giant minotaur, so we're going to have to fight him again. But it says a nightmare, so we don't understand actually the concept of the nightmares yet, how that relates to the story, the lore, and how those conceptually are going to work, as when they go through the Vidoc, they briefly say it's like what you've done before, just defeating enemies. It's not going to work the same. So there's going to be some tweak, some lore to this thing where these nightmares are, I don't know, apparitions that we fight. They were called phantasms on one of the nameplates for Crato. So some way that we fight these things are ways where we're going to be able to repeat the activities. And there's, I think, hopefully going to be a lore reason why, because there's something that you're not going to just normally be able to shoot something in the face and it's gone. It's going to be different. It's going to work in a different way. Now, the Nightmare Hunts have different difficulties to them. And they apparently may have different powerful gear as well. As we can see for the weekly challenges, we have powerful gear tier 1. I don't know what the tiers are going to be, 2, 3, 0, not sure. But we do see the challenges for the Nightmares have tier 1 powerful gear difficulty. Again, as tiers go, I would think tier 1 would be like the top. But if you're going like in letter rankings, like, you know, people go like D, E, F, or like, you know, D, C, B, A, S type thing. So I don't know how they're going to do the tiers. I don't know if this is a really good ranking or like just a normal weekly challenge. So when we get to the difficulties, we've got Adept, which is first. Now, Adept looks to have, say, 1 modifier for the week. It is 860 power level, and as we're going to start at 750, that's going to be a decent climb in and of itself just to get up to 860. We know the soft cap is going to be 900, so getting up to 860 is going to be just playing the game. Playing, getting gear drops, legendaries, things like that. We'll continue to level up. Even blues are going to be useful as we go through that. Next, and there is matchmaking for the first 2 difficulties. So Adept has matchmaking, which is good. And then we come to Hero. Hero also does have matchmaking. Now this is 920. You're going to hit that soft cap and start having to do some of the powerful gear rewards to get some of your light level to climb up above 900. Recommended 920. Seems to sandbag a little bit. Any recommended level, my guess is typically going to need to be a little bit more by the time you get to the boss. It always seems to be that way. Recommended is like, you could be this. You probably should be a little higher, though. We've got Air Superiority. Again, this is a new modifier. Don't know how that one works. By reading the words, I have to assume being in the air is going to make you more powerful in some way. I don't know if you're going to do more damage or what, but, you know, floating warlocks may have a nice advantage in here. We also have new modifiers, Champion's Overload and Champion's Barrier. Those are 2 new ones that tie into the seasonal artifact, and I will pull up some mods related to those once you get past this description of the hunts. And the final one, we have the Torment of Zydron. Zydron, I don't know how you say it. Hopefully they say it at some point so we can get the words. But the idea here is the boss of the Nightmare Hunt itself has a modifier on him. I don't know if it's like enraged the whole time, if there's a different way you have to fight him, but you do have to crank the difficulty up in this one, but matchmaking is still on, so it's not totally bonkers banana crazy yet. Technical term, by the way, bonkers banana crazy. Final difficulty is Legend. So this is going to say Become Legend. A strong fire team is recommended to overcome this challenge. Matchmaking is off. So you can do 2 different difficulties with matchmaking as you get up to 900 and 920 and 950. Matchmaking into these will be a thing that's an option. Legend is going to be one of these that is going to be rough. So you've got the same pieces here. Air Supporty, Champion's Overlord, Champion's Barrier. Your equipment will be locked. And for example, this one, which these modifiers could rotate, has match game on it. So locked gear is definitely a thing to consider. Going in with a team is going to be a good thing to do, or your pretty much options currently, Borealis, Hardlight, stuff like that. Torment of Zydron is still there. It is 950 power level. That is the max power level that you can get through all normal powerful gear activities outside of Pinnacles, which everybody seems to assume Pinnacles are going to be things like the Raid, Dungeons, mostly those types of things is how you're going to go 950 to 960. So that last 10 levels is going to be those hard difficulties. So 950 is definitely going to be one of those things that you are going to need a team for, and also these modifiers are no joke. Now, when it comes to the modifiers itself, we've got Champion's Overload and Champion's Barrier. We do have a little bit of knowledge about those with regards to the artifact. We get a little glimpse here when we look at the artifact on this second column of modifiers. We see anti-barrier rounds for both auto rifles and submachine guns. And it basically states, shield-piercing rounds designed to bypass combatant defenses, strong against barrier champions. And one of the modifiers literally is champions barrier. It's literally what they state. Another one we see, you got hand cannons for the same mod. And then we've also got, for a split second, there was a glimpse of this one, it's overload rounds. Now these are a little differently. They do seem to be putting some power behind auto rifles and submachine guns. This one specifically is going to be uninterrupted fire, grants bullets that cause disruption, delaying ability energy regeneration, and lowering combatant damage output, strong against overload champions. So when you work through your artifact, and these modifiers being a thing, you work through your artifact and you're going to unlock these modifiers. They're fairly early on because they want you to be able to fight these nightmare hunts. So these are going to be an important piece of it. But if the Gate Lord's Eye looks like this, you're going to have auto rifles, hand cannons, and bows as your main things that are going to be able to use these overload rounds and these barrier breaking rounds. And there's one more modifier on the bottom for the hand cannon that's kind of the squarish one, because we've got triangle, circle, and then the square. I don't know what it does yet, but I'm sure there's a different type of modifier. So those are all going to be ones that you can slot in. You also notice they cost 0 energy. So they're going to be a free mod to put in there. It's going to give you potentially the benefit of using an auto rifle. It's going to make that auto rifle more powerful. So auto rifles are potentially going to be getting a buff on top of scout rifles. Recluse may be an absolute beast if it doesn't get nerfed. So those are going to be some options as well. But these mods are part of the Gate Lord's Eye. And this is going to take me back to the overall map. Luke Smith, in his Part 3 Director's Cut, had mentioned that some of the content is going to be temporary. Now, temporary content has its ups and downs. It's cool that they can make the game an evolving world that has reasons to things changing. But you also have these difficult encounters, and if people, you can a la carte the seasons. They have stated that, so if you don't buy the season, you may not be able to play these encounters. They potentially will be going away. Now, why would these specifically be going away, the Nightmare Hunts? Mostly because the artifact is seasonal. It ends its function at the end of the season, so then these specific mods that you're able to take into these activities no longer will be available, potentially. So then these activities also may be the things that go away. So this Shadowkeep activity that we're getting in Shadowkeep, which is interesting as that's more the expansion. I thought if the activity with the Season of the Undying was going to be the temporary thing, but we will honestly just have to see how that works. So I really wanted to get your guys' thoughts on a temporary thing. Now, if they take it to where you're like going through these nightmare hunts, and he stated where as you progress through the season, there's going to be a progression of things that happen, and then there's going to be maybe a culmination of things, and then it's going to kind of wrap up in a little bow, and then maybe we won't have those activities anymore. If they wrap it up in a way where we're facing these nightmares and there's a story element to it, and as the season progresses along, they unlock a kind of a new piece of the hunts, or there's a dungeon that comes along that we're fighting something that is controlling these hunts or something like that, and then if we're able to defeat that at the end of the season, we're able to basically remove the nightmares. They're no longer there. The moon is no longer potentially haunted, and that could be a story element to it. Now, if they take it that way, that would give the game kind of more of that evolving feel that they're going for. But we've also got people wondering like, hey, I bought the content, I enjoy the hunts, where's my content going? So there are two sides of the coin. The game cannot get infinitely big. They have said that. It's 165 gig on PlayStation. That's large, to say the least. I mean, you're talking about, 2/5 of people's hard drives without a doubt. And I just wanted to know your thoughts. Let those be known in the comments below. Curious in how they handle them. We don't know completely everything yet, what specifically is going to be it. But seasonal content does seem to be tied to that artifact. And as these hunts have specific modifiers in that artifact, they seem like maybe a temporary thing. The final couple things when we come back to the map that we'll look at here briefly. In the top left corner, we've got what I have to assume is the Black Garden raid called the Garden of Salvation. The only reason I say that's the raid because most things on the map do not have guided games on them. So I have to assume that that's actually going to be the raid. Now, maybe it's the dungeon. We don't know. Don't know where the dungeon is going to be listed or anything like that. But previously, to boot up the dungeon, it was loaded from going actually up to a place in the world as opposed to somewhere from the map. So my assumption is this is going to be the raid. It looks like kind of a Vex-ish type icon, and it has guided games next to it. So you've got all of that stuff tying that together. In the bottom left-hand corner, you will see the final thing that I don't know a damn thing about, and that's the Vex icon. Now, that matches the Season of the Undying. We know that's related to the Vex. The Vex are going to invade basically everywhere, I think. All over the planets, Vex are going to be invading. There's some story reason that they're coming in. And I don't know if the Shadowkeep and Vex invasion tie together. Maybe they do, which would be cool. But we have a completely unknown activity in the bottom left-hand corner. It's not like we can really drive to it. Doesn't seem like that's going to be anything. And it's just down there. And it does look like it has a weekly challenge modifier on it as well. So we've got that Vex symbol, and we know that is the Season of the Undying symbol, which is an interesting thing. You look at the brief icon of Monte Carlo, as opposed to the Shadowkeep weapons and armor, it has the seasonal icon in the corner of that weapon. So less temporary and definitely more kind of long-term, maybe. I'm not sure how those are going to work. And also, if you look around the map, we have 3 icons specifically that show that little Vex symbol. And it's the diamond with the Vex head in it. And you've got one just to the east of Anchor of Light, one in the northern part of Archer's Line, and one just above the Hellmouth. Those are 3 icons, and again, we don't know what those are going to do. So, I know the moon is just one planet for an expansion. I don't imagine we're going to get to explore the Black Garden that much, especially if we're booting up the raid from here. I'd like to explore the Black Garden as like kind of a secret place we get to later on. I doubt that's going to happen though, so I would not hold your breath on that. But it does look like the moon is going to offer us a lot of things to do. We're going to have the Nightmare Hunts, a few different one of those with different modifiers and things to go with. We've got 1 strike on the moon. We've got 1 strike on Io. And then we've got a new planet, new zones, the Shadowkeep, a dungeon coming in, the raid, and the seasonal activities, invasions everywhere. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tour of the moon map from everything we can gather from the recent Gamecom streams, interviews, and also some of the videos we've got. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like below. That definitely helps me out. If you can find me on Twitch and Twitter, it's Ebontis on both of those, but right here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, so all these videos that I'm breaking this stuff down keep coming to you. And of course, if you are already a subscriber, if you want to hit that alert bell, that will definitely keep my videos more in your feed, help that YouTube algorithm send my stuff to you. So thank you all very much for the support. Everything's been awesome lately. You can catch me on Twitch. Sometimes I'll be going over random stuff live or just playing. And thank you guys. Have an awesome one. I'll see you soon.